Welcome, Kyrin, and thank you for being a part of today's talk and agreeing to share your work and insights into artistic practice with us today.
Thank you, Monique, for that truly humbling introduction. So kind of you. I also would really, really love to directly thank everyone for being here. This is amazing.
Well, we are super excited, and I want you to dig in a little bit and tell us a little bit more about your background. You and I had the pleasure of talking and chatting before this. And so there's so many wonderful layers to your work and your background that I would love for you to share different pieces that you feel inclined to.
Well, the background is like super eclectic. And it comes from this long and wild life that we're all living together. I am a interdisciplinary artist because, I mean, it just overlies everything that I am as a Black woman. Also, like, shout out for Women's History Month.
Yes.
This is the best way to kick it off. What a privilege. So the artist who I am, okay, so I am this person who has always had complete vision of things. When I was a child, I didn't understand what the vision was even about, but I see things and I want us all to have them. Observations about culture, observations about ways to take care of people. And it all kind of rounds out an educational core of this career. So I do teach, and I've been super involved with museums throughout my career. Both of those things feed me as an artist because the museum work, primarily focusing on African and non-Western art, really created everything about my aesthetic. There's very little that can't be traced back to understanding about how art works for us.
Yes.
I would, if I had to say one thing about myself as an artist, it's that I'm a pragmatist. I want the art to do things for us, to document, to uplift, to provide care. So that's where I'm coming from. That's where we're starting out.
Absolutely. So just a quick question. When did you first recognize that you had artistic talent? You talked about some other things in your just recent description. Tell us a little bit about when you found your first voice artistically.
Oh, this is something that can go out to, I should have asked how many artists there were with us today, because we all have, you know, these interesting realizations that happen in life. I've been making art as long as I can remember, since birth. Literally, I was the kid with the crayons. And, but the vision side of it was part of it. As a child, I made art and I thought it was like illegal to draw what you see. Like if there's something in front of you and you go, I was like, no, it has to be only from my head. It has to be springing whole into whatever this form is. Because as a kid, I saw things differently and I didn't realize that maybe it was different from how other people were walking in the world. I believe that I was kind of a visionary child. Deja vu all the time. Lots of places I went, I felt I had been there before. And I wanted to talk about that, so I would draw it without looking at references, if that makes any sense. So that's my earliest memory of having sight and wanting to express it through my work to tell people about an idea.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was valuable when I was that kid.
Well, we're going to have a chance to see some of your work because it is beyond valuable. It's amazing. And Zakia is going to cue up some of your most recent work for our audience to take a look at, because the pieces, they speak for themselves. And I want to be able to share and then talk a little bit about some of the pieces with you. This first piece, tell us a little bit about this one. It's amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad we're beginning with the creator with young Erzulie, because it is an important piece in my work overall. And it demonstrates a lot of where I'm coming from as an artist. But something happened. Something happened that I just saw today. You've asked me, and you may ask me in as this conversation continues to unfold about my models. And I didn't start out as an artist painting the figure. The figure is, I would say, within the last decade of my life, but there's someone special in this painting, and they actually reached out and put a post, and I want to read a little bit of it. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to read it quickly. And this is from Dr. Andrea Little Mason, who modeled for me for this piece. And she writes, a few years ago, this amazing our artist approached me about being in one of her projects. Our children attended the same school, but we didn't know each other well. Over some months, I visited her home, and she set forth creating. If I remember correctly, this painting was part of an exhibit titled Visions of Venus. She called the painting The Creator with Young Erzulie. I will be honest and admit that I didn't know, that I had no knowledge of Erzulie at the time, but I was captured by the fact that when she spoke to me about the project, she would mention how perfectly I fit the image of what she was trying to portray. Whenever she worked with me, she showed such reverence for aspects of my person that I never valued before. I never told her, but she and her work were a vital part of my personal spiritual evolution, as well as my understanding of who I am and what I am here to represent and do as one of the daughters of the African diaspora. That painting went to be one of only two purchased, 2 or 3 purchased at the event. I'm skipping a bit. While I was there at the opening, there were people who walked up to me and said, "It's you." They would look back at the painting and say things like, "It looks like she has something to say. Look at her eyes." Then look at me and say, "You've got a message, don't you? You've got something to say." They were right. Kyrin's painting allowed me to literally see myself and answered so many questions for me. I am here to acknowledge, represent, and honor the original mother.
Oh,
If I can do something like that in my paintings, I am good to go.
That just warmed my heart, Kyrin.
So it's finding the divine in us, our relationships with each other, our ways we walk in the world. And Dr. Andrea Little Mason is special, and I was drawn to her because she's involved with giving life. She's a doula. And so the spirit that we're calling forth is that spirit of motherhood, of the goddess Yemaya in African and Haitian thought and Caribbean thought. So that came together, and that puts a very fine point on the practical reasons I do the work I do.
Yeah, that message and this piece, when I first was introduced to your work, I've got to tell you, this was the second piece that I saw, and I absolutely fell in love. When I say I love everything about this piece, I mean it. And can you tell us a little bit about the red scarf or shawl that goes across both women in the picture?
Well, if I was casting a spell for the unity and care over Black women through this painting, it was about tying our thoughts together and literally our shared support for one another, though we may be different ages, different hues, different perspectives, but the divine in us is there. And it's to be depicted lovingly. I was thinking a lot about Western painting at the time this one was made, and how we need to have that gaze
Yeah.
looking back at us. Too often, if we see at all any depiction of a Black woman in painting, they're subservient, they're looking down. I wanted these women to be fully self-authorized and present. Yes, there to see you too. So
Yes, yes, yes. Um, let's take a look at the next picture. Tell us about the weight.
you know, there's a song, "The Weight." It's an Aretha Franklin song. You take a load of, and we all carry these weights together.
Mhm.
Um, and this painting is actually kind of a protest painting
Okay.
about the things that we bear and give. We might be here or have historically been here, nursing, caring for, giving life to the children of others.
Mhm.
What do we have left to hand to our own children or to our younger self as the journey is unfolding? So the weight is really about, this dialectic of where we have walked as women in this country and how we have, with great dignity, persisted in situations that were a compromise. Being a wet nurse,
Yeah.
so it's just my kind of time traveling to get into the body and the experience of what that might have been like for someone.
I love that concept. You're time traveling. Let's look at the next piece. Weapons of choice.
Still time traveling, I guess. And still, I love the duality of, a double figure composition. And, you know, I was playing here with what we think is and have thought is beautiful and might not be. I really researched, like, you think that if you were in a compromising situation historically, you might have acted out or put a little, uh, poison into someone's coffee. So they're there and they look self-possessed, beautiful, strong. Um, but the things that they're holding are actually exceedingly poisonous plants. And
Okay.
these little chicken feet, I love the chicken feet. They show up a lot.
I've seen them a couple of times in your work.
So
Um,
they've got their plants, they've got their chicken feet, they've got each other.
okay, I love that. Let's take a look at the next piece. Return of the Creole Pig. This was one of the pieces that was featured at the Southside Community Arts Center.
So more doubles, more time travel, more mysticism. I have very distant Haitian ancestry. And I was reading, when the pandemic started, I was
Mhm.
reading this book called In Extremis, and it was about how the Haitian people, through their art and their spiritual practice, were rolling with the recovery after the earthquake.
Okay.
And I've always, for some time before I picked up the book, I had this black pig had been in my work and running through my mind. And in a footnote in the book, it led me on this whole chase because there was a specific black pig that was native to the island of Haiti. And it was driven to complete extinction by the US Agriculture Department when swine flu was breaking out in the 70s. They killed this pig, hundreds. It was a slaughter, but the pigs were the school funding, the family sustenance for agrarian Haitian families. And the USDA came and wiped them all out, and then sent big, fat American pigs as like a consolation prize. So they put all these conditions on the people. Anyway, I wish the pig's story to be known. I wish the pig could come back it was adapted to survival in its circumstances, and no other pig has been able to come and take its place in the Haitian agriculture. So I identify with her, and I wish that I could resurrect her.
You, when I look at some of your work, we'll see this in some of the other pieces as well. You use a lot of animals and symbolism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by animals, and I believe that they carry something closer to nature than we are really with a lot. And so I have animals kind of as avatars. We'll find rabbits who are tricksters in African folklore show up in my work a lot. The pig shows up, but also I hybridize animals to my own purposes. Like I've got a kind of horse, griffin, clansman figure that is just a night terror that shows up in my work. It kind of dates back to this fascination I have with medieval beasts from illuminated manuscripts. They are totally fascinating to me because they predate a lot of these negative, weird aspects of Western culture that we have. And I wonder what the artists who made them were trying to do with these animals. So yeah, there are animals in my work. They accompany us.
Well, that's fascinating. Let's take a look at the next piece. Memory Shore.
We can clip through these fairly quickly. I can point out that there's some animals fighting in the background there and swimming in the water. They're kind of hard to see. Oh, look, there's one at the bottom. Yeah, the animals just, they show up. Oh, there's another one. Oh, the loup-garou is interesting. I grew up like terrified of the loup-garou, which is like a swamp werewolf that's going to come out of the bayou and get you if you are a child.
I'd never heard of it, so thank you for sharing that. Is that like a regional mythical character?
It must, yeah, I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
those stories were definitely there to terrorize.
I would think I would be a little scared of that as a young girl as well. Tell us about this piece. I mean, there's so many pieces to this. There's a sword, there's a snake, there's a woman, talk to us a little bit about this piece.
Well, this one is a specific, and it's a good example of vision. Like, this is just the vision that I had. Okay. It was, my grandmother, whose name is Clotilde, would talk about going berry picking as a young girl, and that there were snakes. And my Clotilde was exceptionally devout. So I just saw this vision of her having a vision. The machete appears in a lot of my work. I think that, what woman doesn't need a good machete in this life? And so, yeah, she had to frequently kill snakes.
Okay.
In her bayou berry picking wanderings. And she was the most gentle woman that I knew. So the contrast really stayed with me. So I did this painting.
Karen, tell me a little bit, and the audience here, how does a piece unfold for you? You talked about having a vision first. How does a piece unfold for you?
With my personal work, the example we're looking at right now is a portrait, and that is obviously very different. But with my personal work, it really is based on visions. They come almost fully formed. It's always been that way since I was a young person. That's not to say there's no room for experimentation and growth. through the process of making work, that's always there. There's always happy accidents. But what spurs me to say, oh, okay, I'm going to capture this in a piece is usually that I've seen it in my mind's eye, almost fully formed.
Okay, wow. And you talk about the portrait. This is beautiful. And that is another layer of your work, your practice.
Right. The idea of like painting your familiar is,
Mhm.
that's so central to everything. And the idea of anointing people by drawing them and paying that special attention to them has been also a part of my practice. So
Mhm.
I love to engage with portraiture to affirm people. I am a family woman. And
Mhm.
often when I do portraits for my clients, it's to honor or memorialize family members or to capture a young person where they are and just kind of freeze them in time. What mother doesn't want to do that?
Yes, I
So
love that concept. I mean, that just to me, uh, you captured this moment in time. That's
yeah,
beautifully.
yeah,
Yeah.
Carla and Juanita. And
Ah,
this is another portrait piece. This is Della in lace.
this is, it's beautiful.
We need to see ourselves that way. So
Yes.
the portrait work is valuable work.
Do you have a preference for the type of medium that you work in? And if so, has that changed or evolved over the years?
It's always changing and evolving.
Mhm.
I push myself. Like I said, when I went to art school, I was not painting. I didn't paint the figure or draw the figure. Um, and that's something really, when I moved to Illinois, so 10 years, I was like, I want to have work that people can see themselves in. It's important. I want us to be captured in that way. Let me learn how to do it. And I was like, and I want to learn how to do it at a really high level. So I just pushed myself. And in terms of media, oil painting is my love language. I love everything about it. And then drawing, of course, is, I kind of use them interchangeably. Those are my media of preference right now, but I do make things that are three-dimensional. I do photography, and I started out as an artist with installation-based projects. Count on it. That's going to come full circle, and I will begin doing something else. That's just the way an artist cycles through life, I guess.
We look forward to all phases. And next, your artist statement begins by stating that, and I quote, "My drawings and paintings are acts of intercession, the sharp point of trajectory of memory." Could you share with us more about that?
Well, memory is very, very central to how we sustain ourselves culturally.
Mhm.
It's personal and it is interpersonal in that I feel like I thrive on and have very visceral memories of our collective past. If something, happened in my ancestry or yours, I might be the person who reacts as if I was there, if I saw
Yeah.
it. So intercession comes into it when there are things to care about, change, preserve, document. It's so important for us as a people to uphold those practices. And we do
Yeah.
so beautifully with our literature and our music. And for me, being a visual artist, it's about giving tangible form to the same thing that maybe Billie Holiday was singing about,
Yeah.
or you feel when you visit your birthplace, or
Mhm.
that we are all collectively often trying to assemble in terms of carving out what our relationship is to our forebears, to the continent. And so that's where the work is really coming from, and why I say that it is a trajectory of memory. And it is also calling out things that we, might wish were experienced differently.
So this piece was the second piece in our show at the Southside Community Arts Center. And I, again, I fell in love with this one too. The duality, they're holding some chicken feet. Talk to me and us about this piece.
The cosmic twins, that's where it all starts. And this is an African Yoruba diasporic set of ideas that just persists. Okay, so the Marasa are a part of the Haitian cosmic world, but they compare to the Ibeji in Yoruba thought and the whole structural duality of a lot of African thought is there. I like doubles in my work. As an African American, we've always got doubles going on. We've got double consciousness, double entendre, all kinds of dual identities, code switching, everything's a double. So I've got these figures who are connected at the back, at the spine, through their, nervous column. And they're sitting there, their gaze is different, but they're the same person. And I like to use a lot of medical imagery. So this is actually a brain scan that they're in front of. And there's little notation down at the bottom. I frequently do this little diagram of the limbic system. I don't know if you can see it. It's just center at the bottom. But the limbic system is what carries us and makes us ready for fight or flight. All of our memory of like survival is like, to me, it's captured in that. So I have this graphic for it that shows up in my work often. The chicken feet are just there because people are kind of like, in our history, we've had to do what we can with what we have.
Yes.
If I can use a chicken foot to make you think that I have power over you, I'm gonna use it.
Yes.
And it's just a little foot of a chicken, which fascinates me.
It is fascinating. Kyrin, when I think about your work and I look at it, you have these powerful images of women. And of course, as we enter into, I always think Women's History Month, but, like Black History Month, it's Women's History is every day as well. Can you share with us what helps you create them and what do they represent for you?
It's documentary and aspirational at the same time, because I feel like we need these physical things. We need to know that somebody, in my case, an artist, has put the time in to carve out and delineate and depict our beauty and capture that. So it's a documentation, but then it's also aspirational, because we're here to provoke thought and to cause people to say, oh my gosh, these Black women are multidimensional. They're so present. They've got power. They've got things that I will never begin to understand about them. And they're formidable.
Yeah.
So it's conjuring all of that into existence and then sharing it broadly. And it's there for everyone. I would never like anyone to think that my art occupies or seeks to occupy a really narrow lane. It's adding to this vital discourse that's art as broadly as possible, but it's adding what I know and what I can do. So
you, when I go back to your artist statement, it goes on to state that my art gives shape and form to what it has meant to be a Black or mixed race person in America. The work is body-based, emphasizing gaze and gesture of the figure. The physicality of memory also finds form in symbolic depictions of the limbic system and other bioimaging. You talked a little bit about that in some of the other pieces. Can you share more with us about that thought and philosophy?
Oh, certainly. Let's tackle the first part of it. I'm for amplifying this wildly broad concept that there are a million ways to be a Black woman. And we need to see, love, and promote all of them. So by that fact, it just makes me an advocate for every kind of woman of African descent, and to love us completely as we are, and maybe transcend, differences that might be based on where a person is from or how they look, of all things.
Mhm.
I have to advocate for the complete wholeness of all of us, including those of us with mixed ancestry or unknown ancestry, because that's where I'm coming from. I just think that being an advocate for our wholeness is something that hasn't been front and center in our collective history, and it should be.
Yes.
So there's that side of it, and that the ties that bind us
Mhm.
are stronger when we affirm the wholeness of each and every individual that those ties want to embrace.
Absolutely.
And with it being body-based, I'm super literal about it. I'm like, yeah, this is our body. It is so gorgeous. Let's explore it and present it and have it there to look at and relate to. The figures that I do are often, I see them kind of as composites, like historical composites or avatars for our whole experience.
Mhm.
So I use my children as models often because, I will laugh and say I'm an artist who believes in make it from whole cloth. I made my models and everything.
Well, I mean, when you've got children that are as amazing as their mom, it makes sense. So, and the fact that they don't have a problem with it is also a good sign.
Oh, they have a problem with it sometimes.
Having kids, that's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, that's awesome. So this next piece is going to lead us into a conversation about something that you're doing in collaboration with Chicago Printmakers Guild. Can you share with this piece? It says praying card number 4.
Yes, this piece was almost like a precursor of the piece that we'll discuss. Gosh, I wish we could see them both at the same time. I didn't think of that. But yeah, praying cards are these images that have come to me, and they're based on playing cards, but it has to intersect with my intention of unifying and preserving our culture. So I'm praying for that in making these works, right? So I might put a little innocent child in this contemplative space where we're talking about what are his possibilities, what are his protections, what are his freedoms,
Yeah.
what could be a threat to his survival, and just the piece is a meditation to pray over all of those cares and concerns and beautiful things and victories. So that's where this work is coming from. I've done several. I'm working on 2 right now, but it does flow into the next piece. So
Okay. So first of all, let me say that we're super excited to be in partnership with the Chicago Printers Guild and gracious fundraiser on behalf of the Southside Community Arts Center. We've been blown away, quite frankly, by the talented artists who have graced us by creating works of art to sell and allowing a portion of those proceeds to benefit the center. So you can only imagine my excitement to learn that you had also created a piece for us. How did you get involved with the Chicago Printers Guild? and this fundraiser?
Well, this is where it really does come together around women,
Okay.
because there are some total badasses in the printing community here
Yes.
in Chicago, and I get the privilege of thanking them. Raylene Cow, who we had the preliminary conversation, reached out to me on behalf of the Guild and then put me in touch with Deborah Maris later and Melody Vaughn, who were instrumental in helping me birth this piece. I had not done a print since I was an art student.
Oh, okay.
The qualities of my drawings were like, yeah, lithography makes sense. And it was a question of access. And that's where I have to really credit the Chicago Printmakers Guild, because they are about just amplifying what the printing community here is, what people can do, and that it is a space in particular where artists of color can flourish.
Yeah.
So that message hit out loud and clear, and just the confluence of it being in support of the Southside Community Arts Center was perfection. It was just perfection. So the process of doing this lithograph was a discovery and a reunion for me. And I got to be in touch with these very savvy, empowered printmakers. A master printmaker is someone who can collaborate truly with an artist to edition their work. And it's a very unique and special process, because the stores of knowledge that these women have about the technical aspects of printmaking are incredible.
So we've got a video, a very short video to show about the process of making these lithographs. Wow.
So we can see Melody Vaughn there helping to ink the stone. You draw your image in reverse on a lithography stone. And this is an old, very tradition-bound practice. Every step of the way was just beautiful to me. The artistry in inking and processing that stone was formidable. And the result is this print that includes washes and all kinds of mark making. And it was just a labor of love to produce this edition of 20.
And first of all, thank you for allowing us to share that video of the process, because that just gave me more background information on how amazing the Chicago Printers Guild is and some of the work that they do. Certainly, we can't thank them enough for the fundraiser that they've been doing with us. Tell us a little bit about the title of the piece is called Praying Card Number 7. How did we get to, are there 7 in the series, or where did this number 7 come from?
It's an ongoing series, and that was the 7th in the series, just by chance. The Chicago Printmakers Collaborative, I want to just really point out and credit, because that's the actual space we were in. But let's talk about the title and the form, because it's my take on a playing card. And playing cards have special significance. It's a moment, like in my experience, and probably way more broadly in our shared culture, the playing card is charged. It is a thing, it's a vehicle, it's an experience. And so this work, my selection of the form of the playing card, you know, it comes from me being the kid under the table at my grandmother's, you know, ladies social club, playing cards, or when my dad was visiting with friends for playing spades. And I'm not a card player, but I am fixated on that moment, the moment of like power where the hand goes up and you've got the card and you're going to win, and it's your chance.
Yes.
And it's magical.
Yes.
My intercession can take some of that magical aspect of when we're all on our own and we have joy and togetherness, and we're in, maybe a little black cosmos that's just our kin and our friends, and the cares of the world fall away, and it's around a card game. It's around this form that is historic, that people don't even think of the playing card as an historic form, but it comes from, I think, Ottoman culture.
Okay.
But it's that moment, that charge, that like sizzle when you got you're winning and you're about to throw it down. I want to harness that to make us think about the issues that are at hand in this work, which are way more serious than a game. The piece takes the structure of the playing card, the notion of prayer and art as intercession, but it really presents my vision about duality again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe a wish that the young people who are depicted can be free from toxic gender roles.
Yeah.
I've got my peregrine falcons coming to convey some freedom for them, that they can be just every molecule as they are and recognize that it's perfect. So
It looks like they're surrounded as well, engulfed in something. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Kind of
rib cage like forms.
Yeah.
That's just those have appeared in my work before in the past. It's just about like maybe your ancestors continuing to embrace you and to build you up.
I love that.
But it's not, a specific biological form. It's more a feeling, and that's one that we would want to convey and share.
So tell me, when will these pieces be available, and how will people be able to purchase if they're interested? And I see it's an edition of 20.
Yeah, so there are only, that's a nice edition, and they are available now. They can be found, maybe we can follow up somehow with linking through the Chicago Printmakers Collaborative, because they're on their site now. But I should be especially clear that the proceeds from the sale of the print go to benefit the Southside Community Arts Center.
And we are forever grateful for that. I know our time is ticking, and I want to just ask a few things. First, let me say, is there anything that we haven't covered that, and Rachel has just put the link, thank you, Rochelle, the link into the chat for the purchase of the pieces. If you are on this call, you get to potentially get one of the pieces, and then someone else is saying they don't see any. So we'll keep following up with that, because I want to make sure that we give the information as to how you can purchase those pieces and other pieces through the Chicago Printers Guild. One other question that I was thinking about as you were talking, and that is, do you have an artistic, how would I say this, goal, vision for your work? You talked a little bit, you have so much history, so much memory, so much evolution. Is there an artistic goal for you in your practice?
Well, beyond the pragmatism of the purpose an artist undertakes in their work, there's the whole kind of corollary lane of career, right? How much work you're able to do, at what level,
Mhm.
what access do you have to the things that are turning the gears of the art world? And are you even interested in that? I'm at a point where the ambition to do great work is, cresting like a tidal wave. I'm doing everything that I possibly can to amplify my work, to do bigger projects, and to reach more people. And for me, that means, um, you know, calibrating my level of activity on being in the studio and balancing that against other commitments I have as a museum volunteer, an educator, a parent, all of those things. But so the answer to your question is my vision for myself and my work, or what I would wish for any artist or person working creatively, that they have the time, the resources, and the access
Yes.
to really, really elevate what they're doing. So it's a great time for me as a person because I'm leveling up every way I can to
Yes, we're going
do
to share
more
a little
work.
bit about that too. So if you haven't dropped any questions into the Q&A and you have some that you want us to ask Kyrin, please add them now. And as we queue up to receive some of them, I've got a couple of things that I wanted to share that I think are super exciting. And the first being that, Kyrin, you've been offered admission to the highly competitive and sought after Master of Fine Arts program at the University of Chicago. So collectively, congratulations, and asking the audience to send you, celebratory energy, because that's a phenomenal. I know that was something that we talked about. That's been phenomenal in terms of where you wanted to take your practice and what that could represent for you.
Thank you. Yes, this is new and recent news, almost unexpected because it's a super competitive program. But to be able to have access to work in an interdisciplinary setting is a dream of mine. And I still kind of can't believe it. But that's the piece of building out a career that I think all artists, especially artists of color, need to be thinking about. As Black women, we are raised to believe that we can make it all by ourselves. We can create it from whole cloth, bootstrap it, whatever you need in your development to get. We lose out sometimes with that scenario. We become strong and formidable and capable for sure. But my decision to try for something like this at this stage of life was all about access.
Yeah.
It was about being able to throw my lot in with people who are thinking and challenging and making waves, being able to get the grants, the residencies, and to do work that's bigger and broader. So the timing is exceptional, and I'm very thrilled.
Well, I'm thrilled for you. And you just made me think about something with the Southside Community Arts Center. When the doors were opened back in 1940, one of the things that was very clear is that not all artists could afford to go to an established institution. And what they would do, and what you will be able to do, is through all of the knowledge that you gain, you will be able to share and pass that along as well. And so you talked about access and opportunity and grants and all of the things that will go along with that. What I know for sure, you're going to bring a level of energy and amazing talent to them You may think that they're going to bring some wonderful things to you, but I am positive that you are going to bring as much, if not more, to them. And so, again, we honor you and celebrate you today with that. I absolutely love your work. And I've got another, kind of quick, exciting piece of news to share. And that is that Kyrin will be curating for the Southside Community Arts Center a women's show featuring women artists as well as herself in October. And so stay tuned for that. That to me is, I've been on pins and needles to make sure that we had a show surrounding women, and I couldn't think of someone that could do that more justice than Kyrin, and to bring new voices and new artists to the table. That's going to be really exciting. So stay tuned for that. Want to just double check now the Q&A and see a lot of comments in the chat about Kyrin in terms of congratulations. Stephanie Farrell says, all I can say is, wow, I absolutely love your work and the details and the meaning behind the pieces. Your conversation is impressive. I feel blessed to be a part of this event. Continued blessing to you on this journey. You make us proud. Thank you. Oh, wow. That's amazing, Stephanie. Thank you for sharing that. As an artist, I know many do what they're called to do, but to know that your work resonates is, that's got to be a special place in your heart. Janitha says, thank you for your beautiful gift of art to all of us. Zakia is saying, so excited for that. Yes, we are very excited for that. Any other questions? I want to make sure we've got this fabulous artist in front of us. And so, Kyrin, are there things that we left out that we want to make sure that we cover before we let you get away on this Saturday afternoon?
Well, I did want to touch into one thing, and it's about us loving on our institutions. That it feels great as an artist to be able to do work to benefit the Southside Community Arts Center. I also am very committed as a volunteer with the Art Institute of Chicago. I think it's important for people who have a heart for education and for art to really stand up for our institutions. Mm-hmm. And an institution like the Southside Community Arts Center is of us. You know, I love the stories that I've heard about how artists like Charles White and Kerry James Marshall, Fahim Majid, took what they got from being at institutions of higher learning, where they were kicking in the door for access, and then brought it back to teach within the community. Those kinds of cycles have to be repeated and uplifted and amplified, whether we're at our, our home institution, or even looking at loving an institution that is a complex behemoth like the Art Institute. Mm-hmm. Going from the inside and working to make sure that it is fully there for us as a resource for our community, and the growth, especially of our young people and our creatives, is extremely important. So I never want to lose that thread that we are all here to learn and educate, and to love on our institutions. Because
yes. Well, thank you for that. Certainly that's important to us. Zakia had a question. She was curious to know how your background in museum studies informed your practice or engagement with art.
That's a good one, Zakia. Thank you for asking. I think that it's inseparable, the desire to educate and preserve in my work. And that's something that is really part of how I view the museum profession. I did work in museums after graduate school, and during graduate school, I worked as a registrar, then assistant director of the Museum for African Art in New York. And then I served a decade at the Fowler Museum of Cultural History at UCLA, roughly. And that's where I got all of this exposure to African art. I was working on exhibitions of African art and art of the African diaspora. And that's where it was part of my formation. And I'm glad that it happened. And I'm also glad to have kind of moved on from it and taking the best of it with me. So it was a meaningful building block.
I had another question here, and it had to do, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling, trying to get to it quickly. It had to do with your time. And the question came from Janet and Amu, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She said to tell you hello, and what is your relationship with time in relation to your studio work?
That is a special question coming from Janet. Janet is a young artist who is working her way through high school right now, and she's a frequent guest in my studio because we live near one another, and I care so much about this brilliant artist Janet is becoming. But so she sees that I'm juggling teaching and family, and yeah, it's a constant struggle, Janet. Prioritize making your art like we discussed. And there are seasons to everything. I think that being in the studio, being productive, having discipline and like a schedule of hours is optimal. Like if you can say, I'm clearing this time, and I'm going to be in my studio, and this is what it takes. I mean, artists who I love, some of them are able to say, it is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I am in my studio, don't bother me every single day. And then some of us are juggling a whole lot. And if we can get in our studio, we have to embrace that it might be for 45 minutes, but keep showing up.
Yeah, keep showing up.
Yeah,
that's a metaphor for life. Keep showing up, and all across as a woman, as a mother, as an artist, as a wife, as an educator, as all of the many things that are part of your life. The balance of that is something that I think many people are still working through. And so even on the days that you think you don't have it figured out, you do. You absolutely do, because we make it happen. We did have a question that came from Stephanie, and she wanted to know, what was your connection with the Yoruba religion?
it is just a long-standing interest for me, coming from my experiences working on African art. I think the first exhibition I ever worked on was Yoruba, 15 centuries of African art and thought. And that was from the Museum for African Art. And I traveled with it to the High Museum in Atlanta, my first job. And I was hooked because the art forms and how they intersect with the spirit and the preservation of community just really spoke to me. The texts around that, especially reading Flash of the Spirit by Robert Farris Thompson as a young woman, helped form how I view what art is and how it functions for people of the Black diaspora as a technology, in addition to the whole aesthetic fullness of it. So the Yoruba religion, I am not a practitioner, but an amazed observer.
Yeah. So I'm scrolling back through, and I want to just make sure that I'm capturing. Zakiya said Flash of the Spirit was her first intro to African diaspora art and thought. Such a critical work. Flash of the Spirit. I'm just scrolling
by
back.
Robert Riarts Thompson. Yeah, I was privileged to sit in many a symposium with Thompson back in the day. Character.
Most of the most amazing people are, if we think about them. So looking through the questions, if there's anything that you want to ask that we haven't covered, and then Kyrin, I'm just scrolling back through because I want to make sure that I don't miss anybody that might have had a question that might have popped up earlier. Okay. If we don't have any additional questions, Kyrin, I want to just say that you have been amazing to work with through this process. Getting to know you, we've had so much fun. Breaking bread.
More.
We will have more. Breaking bread and in the midst of crazy COVID, an outside restaurant, and trying to figure this whole thing out. I am very much appreciative of both the Chicago Printers Guild and your work on behalf of the Southside Community Arts Center. It means a lot to all of us. I looked through the participants on the call, and certainly there are artists on the call, and I thank them and everyone for being a part of this Saturday afternoon, because we all know on a Saturday when the sun is shining, there's a lot of things that you could be doing, and the fact that you chose to join us today is very meaningful. Zakiya has some things so much in terms of housekeeping. Could you share our website with the audience so that they'll make sure to follow us? Because I want everybody, we've got a little time before Kyrin's exhibition in October, but we wouldn't want you to miss out on any other exhibition. In fact, Fahim Majid is currently through March 27th at the Southside Community Arts Center, and it is from the center, and he's got a phenomenal exhibit with us now, and then he'll move on to a broader exhibit with the Hyde Park Arts Center. But we are doing timed visitation through Eventbrite, and that is because it just allows us to stay as safe as possible. So Zakiya, if you will, I think you shared that. And if you're interested.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's talk. That was so lovely to hear that conversation between you and Kyrin. But I just shared some links in the chat. We are always interested in volunteers and folks becoming members at the center. So please feel free to learn more with the links. And also just have to say that this is our new website, so I just want to throw that out there as well. So please feel free to explore it. We have some really phenomenal works in our collection that you can view on the website, as well as learning more about the founding members. And as Monique mentioned earlier, upcoming exhibitions, which we are very excited about. I also kind of want to do a shout out and share that you have 2 more weekends to view Fahim Majid's solo exhibition from the center. So please make sure to RSVP for that show before it is no longer available to view anymore. So thank you.
So Kyrin, any last thoughts, words?
Just gratitude that this was even able to happen. And it is perfect for Women's History Month that a tribe of radical, brilliant, hardworking women made this talk happen. It's been a privilege. So special thanks again to these women from the printmaking community, that is Deborah Maris-Lader, Melody Vaughn, Raylene Cow, and then these sisters of mine at the Southside Community Arts Center. Thank you to you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Zakia the Fabulous, who pulled off this work.
And Zakia, as our public engagement manager, she's helped the center to move light years. And, we all had to adjust to this new virtual setting. And certainly it is with grace that she has helped us get through this. And so I always want to make sure that I show appreciation to her and some of our newer team members that are joining us. And again, Karen, I am looking forward to the evolution of everything that is us. We've got some funny stuff that, we won't put on camera, but we've got some we've got some really good stuff coming and really exciting. So with that, I say have a wonderful rest of your day and may joy follow you. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to this talk.